Although we are in the 21st century and the scientific evidence for human-caused climate change is overwhelming, coal and oil interests continue to pour money into climate change denial efforts. They often do this by contributing money to nonprofit 501c3 think tanks that are able to hide the true origin of their funding. In this video, I will examine one particularly egregious example of this behavior. An article published recently in the New York Times outlines the efforts made by the Texas Public Policy Foundation to promote the use of fossil fuels and to block the development of clean energy sources. The Texas Public Policy Foundation is a 501c3 that does not publicly reveal its funding sources. However, a review of its recent tax returns shows that this nonprofit receives substantial funding from fossil fuel interests. For example, between 2004 and 2020, the Texas Public Policy Foundation received more than $5 million in funding from the Charles D. Koch Foundation. Charles Koch and his brother David, who died in 2019, headed a fossil fuel conglomerate, Koch Industries, that has annual revenue in excess of $110 billion per year, according to the website fossilfuel.com. In addition, between 2010 and 2021, according to the website SourceWatch, the Texas Public Policy Foundation received more than $3.9 million in funding from the Donors Trust and the Donors Capital Fund, both of which received their funding mainly from the Koch family. Additional funding to the Texas Public Policy Foundation has come from Peabody Energy, a coal producer, and from the oil producers ExxonMobil and Chevron. According to the New York Times article, the Texas Public Policy Foundation has a history of opposing the development of renewable energy sources and promoting the development of fossil fuel-based energy. For example, the Texas Public Policy Foundation recently bankrolled a suit by the fishing industry against the development of a wind turbine farm off the coast of Massachusetts. In addition, in Arizona, the Texas Public Policy Foundation campaigned to keep open one of the biggest coal-fired power plants in the West. In Colorado, they called for looser restrictions on hydraulic fracturing or fracking. And in Texas, the group crafted the first so-called energy boycott law to punish financial institutions that want to scale back their investments in fossil fuel projects. They did this even though the development of wind energy is a major industry in the state of Texas. The Texas Public Policy Foundation appears to be untroubled by the contradictory nature of its lobbying efforts. For example, when you look at their advocacy, it is consistently a false choice between being environmentally responsible and enjoying economic prosperity, said Jeff Clark, a chief executive of Advanced Power Alliance, an Austin-based trade group for renewable energy companies. They're against offshore wind, yet they spent decades advocating for offshore oil drilling. They are against subsidies, but only when it applies to renewables. Therefore, looser restrictions on fracking and drilling, but greater restrictions for solar and wind. The organization exists to defend fossil fuels from any threat to their market share, said Clark. The New York Times article concludes by noting that since President Biden came to office pledging to make climate action a top priority, the organization has only increased its efforts to combat what it sees as the overblown response to global warming, disputing broadly accepted models that project an uptick in temperatures, questioning the viability of wind and solar energy, and dismissing the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement as a political stunt that will push more people into poverty. When a storm led to blackouts across Texas in February 2021, the foundation blamed the blackouts on frozen wind turbines, even though utility officials said the primary cause was the state's natural gas providers. The message was echoed by Republican politicians across the country and commentators, including Tucker Carlson. The Texas Public Policy Foundation continues to campaign against wind power, despite the fact that Texas now generates almost a third of its energy from wind power. Meanwhile, the foundation is suing the Environmental Protection Agency, challenging its designation of greenhouse gases as a danger to human health and welfare. And this summer, it lodged its objection to a proposal at the Securities and Exchange Commission that would require public companies to disclose the financial risks they face from climate change. My personal opinion is that the Texas Public Policy Foundation has taken a leaf from the notebook of the big tobacco interests that opposed regulations aimed at countering the hazards inherent in cigarette smoking. They are trying to spread fear, uncertainty, and doubt about the dangerous effects of climate change. Let's hope they don't get away with it. Finally, when you see the slick commercials from the oil companies telling you how hard they are working to reduce carbon emissions, keep in mind that at the same time, these companies are pouring money into the professional coffers of vocal climate change deniers. I hope that you have found this video informative. Please feel free to share it widely, and if you have any questions, please post them in the comments section, and I will do my best to provide answers. Please take some time to view some of my other climate change videos, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks again for watching.